Oye, mira, my name is Christian Ortiz, the developer of Justice AI, and this is Decoding Bias. Today is July 2nd, 2024, and a lot has happened. In today's episode, we're going to take a look and dissect the recent Supreme Court rulings on presidential immunity that they have put in place yesterday. These rulings that have been put in place by the conservative majority justices have far-reaching implications, impacting the lives of marginalized communities and the broader landscape of justice and equity in the U.S. So yesterday, the court's conservative majority said former presidents have absolute immunity from prosecution for official acts that fall within their exclusive sphere of constitutional authority and are presumptively entitled to immunity for all official acts. They do not enjoy immunity for unofficial or private action. I'm going to input this 119-page document that was released yesterday into Justice AI. I'm going to prompt Justice AI to explain what these new rulings are and what they entail. We're going to find out how these rulings reinforce or challenge existing power dynamics, as well as systemic inequalities. We're also going to explore what impacts they may have towards marginalized communities. We're going to take a deep dive and explore how these laws may affect the proceedings for former President Trump's court cases regarding his mishandling of documents in Mar-a-Lago and his involvement in inciting an insurrection on January 6th. Let's get into it.
How does this ruling on presidential immunity impact the accountability of a sitting president for actions taken while in office? This ruling potentially reduces the accountability of a sitting president. By granting broad immunity, it makes it harder to hold the president legally responsible for actions taken while in office. This means that even if the president engages in illegal or unethical behavior, they could be shielded from immediate legal consequences until after their term ends. Many citizens worry that granting broad immunity could lead to unchecked power. What legal recourses are available if a president engages in illegal activities while in office, given the new immunity protections? If a president engages in illegal activities while in office under this new ruling, the primary recourse is through impeachment by Congress. Impeachment allows the legislative branch to hold the president accountable for high crimes and misdemeanors. Beyond impeachment, affected parties may have to wait until the president leaves office to pursue civil or criminal actions. Does the ruling on presidential immunity apply to both civil and criminal cases? And how might this affect ongoing investigations or lawsuits involving the president? The ruling applies to both civil and criminal cases, meaning the president cannot be sued or prosecuted while in office for actions taken during their tenure. This could stall or halt ongoing investigations and lawsuits, delaying justice and potentially allowing harmful actions to go unpunished in the short term. What historical precedents were considered in making this ruling, and how does it compare to past interpretations of presidential immunity? Historically, presidential immunity has been debated, with landmark cases like Nixon v. Fitzgerald, 1982, which granted the president absolute immunity from civil damages for official acts. The new ruling likely draws on these precedents, but may extend them further. Past interpretations allowed for some accountability measures, but this ruling might expand the protective scope, potentially diverging from the idea that no one, including the president, is above the law. How might this ruling influence the actions of future presidents? And what safeguards are in place to prevent misuse of presidential immunity? This ruling could embolden future presidents to engage in more aggressive or questionable behavior, knowing they are shielded from legal consequences while in office. Safeguards to prevent misuse include the impeachment process and, theoretically, public and political pressure. However, these are indirect and can be influenced by partisan politics, potentially reducing their effectiveness. How do the new Supreme Court laws on presidential immunity affect the legal proceedings and potential consequences for former President Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago? For former President Trump, this ruling means that any actions taken while he was in office might be shielded from immediate legal consequences, potentially delaying or complicating investigations and prosecutions related to his alleged mishandling of classified documents. The focus may shift to actions taken after his term ended, where immunity no longer applies. What implications do the Supreme Court's rulings on presidential immunity have for the investigation and prosecution of former President Trump's role in the January 6th insurrection, particularly in the context of inciting violence and undermining democratic processes? This ruling could limit the immediate prosecution of Trump for actions related to the January 6th insurrection that occurred while he was president. Investigations may continue, but legal actions might be postponed until he is out of office. This raises concerns about accountability for actions that undermine democratic processes and incite violence, potentially delaying justice and complicating the legal landscape for holding leaders accountable for such serious offenses. Yes, members of the Senate can hold Supreme Court justices accountable, but not for their judicial decisions alone. The process for holding justices accountable involves impeachment, which is similar to the process for impeaching a president. Here's how it works. First, the process begins in the House of Representatives. A member of the House must introduce an impeachment resolution or present charges against a justice. This can also be initiated by a House committee investigating the justice's conduct. Next, the resolution or charges are referred to the House Judiciary Committee, which investigates the allegations. If the committee finds sufficient grounds, it drafts articles of impeachment. Then, the full House of Representatives debates and votes on the articles of impeachment. A simple majority, which is more than half of those present and voting, is required to impeach the justice. Once impeached by the House, the process moves to the Senate. The Senate holds a trial with senators acting as jurors. The trial is presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court if the president is being tried. But for a Supreme Court justice, it could be presided over by the Vice President or another appointed official. After the trial, the Senate votes on whether to convict the justice. A 2/3 majority, or 67 out of 100 senators, is required to convict and remove the justice from office. Supreme Court justices, like other federal officials, can be impeached for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. This is deliberately broad, but historically, impeachment has been reserved for serious abuses of power or violations of the public trust. Judicial independence is a key principle. The U.S. Constitution and legal tradition protect judicial independence, meaning justices are typically not impeached for their judicial decisions. Impeachment is more likely to be considered if there are allegations of misconduct, corruption, or severe ethical violations. Historically, only one Supreme Court justice has been impeached, Justice Samuel Chase in 1804. He was acquitted by the Senate, setting a high bar for what constitutes impeachable conduct for justices.